Welcome everyone to the Covert Breakout YouTube channel. This is a channel intro and a video talking about the 10 principles of being a prepared citizen. This was a concept that I've been bouncing off of a few different friends that I have, and obviously we are living in unprecedented times. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now. There's a lot of haze right now in eastern Pennsylvania, and it's all coming from the wildfires up in Canada, with civil unrest and a multitude of other things that are continually being pressed upon us. This is a very unprecedented time that we're in, and I feel like that the more people, citizens of this country and world, are prepared and able to take care of themselves, things will get better. As far as myself, I'm an average person, average civilian, no former military or law enforcement experience, just a concerned citizen. And I've been learning a few things along the way and talking with people that are well more experienced than I am. And I feel like that this is a good opportunity for myself to grow in this season and continue to learn skills that'll benefit myself and my family, as well as share with people like you. So you'll have to forgive me. There's a lot of smoke right now because there's a lot of wildfire smoke coming down from Canada into central Pennsylvania here, and allergy season's really upon us, so I'm a mess right now. I'm going to set my rifle down. We will talk more about that later. I have some talking point notes here. No idea how long this video is going to be, but really want to take some time and share a little bit of the vision behind this channel and why an average dude on the internet feels like he needs to be talking to a camera. So with that said, I feel that everyday people have a tremendous responsibility to acknowledge, cultivate, and exercise those God-given rights and liberties for themselves. And I feel that, especially since we are in such an unprecedented time with civil unrest, and potential economic collapse, wars and rumors of wars and other things that are taking place in this world, that it comes down to the everyday citizen, the everyday person, to protect themselves and their family and to grow their communities around them, and as well as pass them on to future generations. All of those lifelong lessons that we have received from our families, it's up to us to pass those on. This channel introduction is not necessarily geared towards any certain political ideology. I want to make this a resource that's available for all people, for all walks of life, and to instill into individuals that, hey, you have God-given rights, you have liberties, and along with that, you have freedoms that need to be exercised, cultivated, and protected, and especially passed on for future generations. So with that said, as I was saying earlier, I feel like that there are certain principles that we need to cover, and along with that, this is going to be the starting ground for future videos. I feel that if you had a chance to walk into a bookstore, and if you were to look at a book on a shelf, and it said 10 principles to becoming a prepared citizen or a Minuteman, what would that book look like? What would that table of contents read? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hence why I have this paper here with all of these notes. It's going to be a little bit to cover here, but this, like I said, is going to be the groundwork for future videos. It'll all make sense. So behind the name Covert Breakout, what's up with that? As you can see, I am in a plate carrier with a battle belt, but I'm also wearing normal civilian clothes. As I've said previously, I have no former law enforcement or military experience. No, I'm not a Fed. I'm an average everyday citizen of this country. And I believe very strongly that as a citizen, you have the ability to protect yourself, your family, and your community. And these are some of the tools that I've acquired to do so. Along with that, part of the covert breakout mentality is to be covert means to not stand out, for lack of better words, to not be someone who's going to be pinned as a hard target, to not be full of showmanship, to not draw a lot of unnecessary attention to yourself and say, look at me, I'm this hard individual that is going to tell you how to think and how to feel. And I see that a lot of times, especially now with this political climate that we're in. both sides are continually saying this is how you should think and the other side's wrong. And I feel that goes against the mentality of being a prepared citizen in a lot of ways. Yes, there's a time to stand up for what you believe in. There's a time to be in a position to where you need to be proactive in preserving your life and liberties. But at the same time, if you are so much of a loudmouth that you continually turn other people that are in the middle or the other side away from you and fuel their fire to then fight against you, then you've lost your mission. Some of you will know this mentality also as being what's called a gray man. You don't necessarily stand out as a hard target from a tactical application. You have the mental fortitude and strength to remain calm in difficult situations. You don't present yourself in a way that is very forceful and capable, but when that time arises that you need to, whatever that may be, you then have the tools and resources available to you to protect yourself. Hence where that breakout action comes into play, which from a military and tactics perspective, a breakout is a forceful break from a restraining condition or situation. So this channel's premise is to be prepared, capable citizens with a covert breakout mentality. So back to the book. If you were to pick up a book at a bookstore, and if it were to say how to be a prepared and capable citizen in 2023, and if you were to turn to the table of contents and you saw 10 chapters, what do you think they would look like? I have an idea. This is a work in progress, but I feel like this is a really good starting point for all of us to retain, to be inspired by, and to continue to grow, each of us. Going back to point one there, history, civics, and understanding of rights. I feel like that's really important, especially now considering the education system may or may not be as proactive with teaching history as what it once was, where the average person doesn't necessarily have a large understanding of history, both in this country and what has taken place prior in the world. Those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Understanding the political compass and knowing the details of ideologies and the arguments that people may have when presenting a political ideology to you. If you don't know what someone thinks and feels, it's going to be hard for you to communicate properly to them. Understanding in detail how someone thinks and the thought process they have when approaching an argument is very important, because if you don't understand where they're coming from, how are you supposed to communicate your thoughts and ideologies to them? And if you yourself don't know exactly what you think and feel, how are you going to communicate what you feel to be correct to other people? We're out here in nature and chipmunks are taking over. Knowing how to explain your own personal views are equally as important. Knowing your system of government and how laws and legislation works and the differences between those two, equally as important. Also understanding where do rights come from, whether if that be the right to bear arms, the right to freedom of speech. Are they God-given, or does your government give and take those rights away from citizens? I feel like a lot of times people from both sides politically get that confused, and that is also the framework of how this channel thinks and believes, because here we believe that our rights are God-given, or that they are given to us because we are all created equal. If the government is subject to giving us rights, then that means that they can be taken from us. Moving along to point number 2, the mindset and the code of discipline. I feel like that's also very important to cover from a mindset before we even getting into some of the hands-on practical applications for being a prepared citizen, because if you don't understand your mindset, your role in what you are doing, you're just going to be like a ship going through the sea without any kind of a compass bearing. You don't know where you're going to end up. Along with that, one of the failures that I see so many people in the prepper community, from the prepared citizen community, from the Minuteman community, is that they take this doomsday mindset where everything in the world's going to go wrong at one specific time. All of the nukes are going to go off, and just Armageddon 2.0, and just everything's going to go completely wrong. They focus on that so much that they forget the why as to why they're preparing in the first place, which I feel that the why is absolutely for your own personal life preservation, for you as an individual, but more importantly than that, your family, your wife, your children. Again, if you look back at the first point in chapter 1 with history, you will see in various situations that have taken place in other societies throughout time, there have been instances where lives were lost because of a situation that took place. And I feel that with the preparation, you can mitigate that. Along with mindset, are you self-aware? Are you in a place that you can be analytical about yourself to understand your flaws and your faulty mindsets in order to improve them and to be a better person? Are you driven? Are you well-disciplined? Do you rely on other people for your help? And when I say that, do you solely rely on other people to prop you up and to give you preparations, to help you? If your car breaks down, are you continually going back to mother and father and asking them for help? Or are you trying to be your own capable person that's able to fix your own problems? It's okay to ask for help from people, don't get me wrong, but if you're so focused on yourself and doing whatever leisure activities you do, and if you're not taking those steps to prepare yourself to take care of your own self, are you even adulting? Some would say not. If you're going to be a prepared citizen and play in this space, I feel that you should have some bases covered. Point 3, threat assessment, scenarios. Knowing what to bring for the specific reason that you may face. It doesn't make sense if you're going to over-prepare and bring 10 days worth of supplies and food to a camping trip that you're only going to be spending one night out under the stars in perfect weather in. It's being over-prepared. You can very easily get into the weeds of being over-prepared and not having the right tools for your job, just in the same way as being underprepared and not having the right tools for your job. Being very specific about what instances you may face, whether if that be escaping from a hurricane in your local area, whether if you're down south or if you're in the Pacific Northwest, or quite frankly, even out here in the East Coast, facing wildfires. What if that wildfire was in your backyard? Do you have the tools and resources to escape and evacuate your home? How does that evacuation plan look like? Did you hear a bump in tonight? What is your plan in place for your household at 2 o'clock in the morning to handle that situation? Do you know your local law enforcement? Have you already made contact with your sheriff and have connections there? Those are all things that we could talk about in future videos for your threat assessment. And along with that, establishing what the threat is first, and then the gear that's then going to supplement that is the priority. So a lot of people get that out of order, and you can tell based on their spending habits that they haven't thought these scenarios through. Moving along here, physical training, eating right, diet, cardio, giving your body fuel it needs to be in the fight. If you're not fit, you're going to die. Countless of YouTube channels talk about that by now, but the point of that is very true. Having kit like this doesn't do you any good if you can't run a 12-minute mile with all of this, or an 8-minute mile without this level of kit. If you can't bench your own body weight, if you can't be in a place where you are hiking and you can carry your own gear, whether if that's 50, 60 pounds or more of sustainment gear, it doesn't do you any good to have all of that if you can't physically carry it. And if the rest in your group, whether if that's your family, whether if it's friends, people in your community, if they are then being held back because of you, you're not doing anyone any good. And there's a quality of life that goes along with that also. If you are constantly out of breath from walking up a flight of stairs, maybe that's a reflection of how you should be improving your physical life. Weapons kit and proficiency. There are systems and tools that we can use to protect ourselves, however they may look. Knowing every little intricate detail about these, knowing when you would use an LPVO, knowing when you would use a weapons light, knowing exactly what range that your weapon can reach out to, knowing exactly how to draw a handgun, knowing how to effectively use this out to 400 yards and more. All of those details go into weapons proficiency. And it's not just from a firearms perspective either. Knowing a little bit about bladed weapons and also hand-to-hand tactics is really going to be beneficial. Remember, you are the weapon. So if you are constantly relying on purchases you made in relationship to firearms, and if that's your only framework of a weapon, I feel like you need to focus a little bit more about yourself and realize that this is your primary source of defending yourself. Communications and community. And when you think of communications, you may think about something like this. There's a lot that goes into this because this is more of a technical field. There's a lot of physical properties going into radio frequencies and when to use certain ones at specific times, the different types of antennas you can use, different modes of communication, whether that be encrypted messaging or packet or other forms of digital radio communications such as DMR and P25. All of that is secondary. The primary would be for you to have a communications plan with the people around you. That could be something as simple as having all of your contacts written down on a piece of paper so that if your phone goes down and if you do have access to a landline, you still have the ability to get a hold of who you need to. Let us not forget that we're all probably watching this video right now on our smartphones. And from a application of you asking for help, calling up a friend, it's going to be your primary means of communication. So don't get lost into the weeds with all of these different forms of radio communications from a prepared citizen perspective. You need to focus on having offline maps on your phone. You need to focus on having all of your contacts saved on a hard copy. Do you know all of your people in your community? Do you know your neighbors? Do you know who you can call if there's a certain situation that takes place? Say, if your car breaks down. Are you going to call someone who has no experience lifting a car and changing a tire? Or are you going to call someone that you know very well that also runs a auto shop? He probably has a trailer and he probably has the means to come get your car and take it back to a shop, or he has tools that he can then take to where it is that you broke down and fix your car. That's part of the communications and community that a lot of people get wrong. They think having a radio is going to help them, or they think that having a communications device such as a burner phone or a sat phone is going to help them, but they don't have the other steps in place that's going to help them. What efforts are you doing to pull people together into a community or a network? And where are you getting your help and information from? Are they whom you wish to become? Are the people in your community someone that you aspire to be? Or are they holding you back? That's something that is equally important that isn't talked about a lot. Are the people that you're surrounding yourself with, are they lifting you up? Are they holding you accountable? Are they purposely going through life with intent? Or are they going through life within a whatever feels good within that moment, that's what I'm doing sort of mentality? Going back to point 2 with the mindset in your code of discipline, you should surround yourself around successful people, people that you aspire to be. Point 7, family prioritization and homesteading. Everyday investments into your family is also preparing. Yes, it's nice to own kit and to train with kit, but if your family doesn't know anything about your kit or what it is that you're going to do in specific situations, if they don't know about your comms plan with your friends and people that you can call on whenever you specifically need help, if they don't know all of those details and if they're left completely clueless in hopes that you would save them, that's not doing them any good. You need to share that information with them. You need to have networks established around your family. If your children are coming home from school, for example, and their bus breaks down, and if there's no way for them to get home, let's say if you live several miles away and it's the middle of winter and it's going to be a hazard for their life for them to walk home, it would be very beneficial if they already knew that you have a friend that's right next to where the bus broke down that they could stay at until you can come get them after work. Having those connections is very important, and along with that, having the means to keep your family safe if a event takes place. Well, if that be a power outage situation like what we've been seeing down south, or if it would be a wildfire situation like what we're experiencing now, or hurricane evacuation. Do you have the food preparations, the self-defense preparations, the mental fortitude, the family cohesion together to get your family through a situation like that? Is all of that in place? If it isn't, that is probably more important than owning a plate carrier, than owning a rifle. Because if those details are not in place, your family's still going to fail. So it's up to you, the prepared citizen, to also consider your family with those preparations. Faith and spirituality. Now, I understand that not everyone here is going to be of a Christian mindset and background. That's okay. However, I feel that there needs to be a certain level of understanding that there is a reason for living. Because if there is no other reason for living other than for your own enjoyment, it puts everything that's taking place in the world and the evils that are in the world into a state where there is no moral absolutes. And if you're going about life solely for self-preservation, then what's the point? So understanding that there is a evil that's in the world and how your life should be separate from it goes into the mindset of a prepared citizen. I'm not saying that you should go to a specific church every Sunday or live your life a certain way. I have those convictions, and I'm not forcing my ideas onto any one person, but I encourage you to ask those questions for yourself and come to your own conclusions, because that goes hand in hand with preserving life and liberty. Along with that, understanding your own mental boundaries and giving yourself an emotional check every once in a while so that you don't become that crazy person to other people in your community. If you go in life, if you have an attitude or an ego that's keeping other people from listening to what you're saying, that could be a reflection of the inner turmoil that's in your life and in your spirit. So I feel that having that in check, especially considering how bad things might get, is very important. Responding to the now correctly. Kind of already touched base on that a little bit with point 8, but responding to the now correctly is both a mental game and a physical game. Having a framework mentally that you know, okay, I need to separate myself from these conversations that are taking place over here. I need to be better than what I see around me. Goes back to the mindset and all of the other previous points we've mentioned previously. Now, this is where the action comes into play. Having a game plan and implementing it and being reflective enough about yourself to say, okay, how did that scenario go? What can I learn from that? What can I do better next time? What are some steps that I can take to better myself and to have a larger understanding of where I need to be? All of that goes hand in hand in being analytical and being self-reflective, and something that you need to also consider as a prepared citizen. Final point here, leaving a legacy. What exactly are you passing on to your children and to your family? Are the people in your community going to remember you as a hothead, someone with an ego, someone that adhered to only one political ideology and his way was right and it was his way or the highway? Or are they going to remember you as someone who is equally as concerned about their well-being and their thought process and their mental clarity and their preservation of their life and liberties just as much as you took that responsibility for yourself? Are they going to remember you as a, hey, this is the prime example of what I think of when I think of a prepared citizen or a Minuteman? Leaving that legacy mark on people based on your actions is something we all should be striving for. If you're going through life thinking about yourself and not about the people around you, you're not going to leave a good impression on their lives. Having that understanding that your time eventually is going to come to where you draw your last breath, and your family, your friends, your community, and the people around you are going to remember you for something. What is that something going to be? Is it going to be something good? Is it going to be something bad? How are you going to inspire them to become better? Because ultimately, we are passing on mindsets for future generations. I'm hoping there's going to be people that watch this video and they're going to take something from this and learn something from it. That's implanting that legacy into other people. If I were to retain all of this information for myself, whether if it's actually something you learn or if I'm just regurgitating things that I've heard other people say, it's still something that might inspire someone else. And that is very important to me personally, and I feel that needs to equally be as important to you. If you're not going to impart wisdom and the preservation of life and liberties to other people, why not just be a man that lives up in the mountains in a log cabin and stay there by yourself and never talk to anyone? There's no benefit and there's no reward from living a life of solitude. And there's no reward in keeping information and memories and things for yourself. There's value and there's reward with sharing of things, for lack of better words. Whether that be encouraging someone, speaking into their life, sharing resources with them, or just sitting down and having a good time with friends. All of that's important, and you're leaving a legacy there. So that's all 10 of those principles that I feel that goes into being a prepared citizen. Was this helpful? I hope so. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope this makes you think a little bit. It's kind of a weird channel intro. I feel that this is definitely on the long side. You might not, you might not find this interesting at all, or you might be absolutely intrigued by all of this. This is why we are to prepare, to preserve our life, our family's lives, the lives of those around us, and to inspire and equip future generations. So with that, I'm going to say welcome to the channel. There's going to be a lot more future videos that I have planned, and not really sure yet where this is going to go, but I feel like this is a good starting point. And like I said previously, all of the future videos are going to be built off of these 10 talking points. Some of the videos might be conversation based, some of them might be how-to based and learning, informational. Others might be just having fun. So with that, I'm going to say stay humble, stay prepared, and stay ready.